Miyazaki, for example, he went to the same school as Mishima. And so he has this like political background.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He has this political background to him where like his whole career, or the early part of his career, he spent as a Marxist and worked at the studio that produced Dragon Ball Z, and unionized that studio. Produced one film as like structurally the company was still the same, but like they were so at odds with the management where they were like let's produce this film as a democratic unit, you know.
Quick context, you're going into this on the point of political and anime. That's the okay. Just so people are,
and I would say anime as a means of bringing people together for organizing.
Right.
Yeah, because there's that community that already exists, but if they were just like willing to activate based on the stuff that they're seeing and what's in front of them. And when it comes to Miyazaki specifically, it's like he follows this trajectory that's almost like parallel with the trajectory of Murray Bookchin, where he starts as like an orthodox Marxist, and because it's sort of
Bookchin started as a Stalinist.
Well, you know what I mean. But
it's just worth to emphasize the point.
As it gets.
Right.
Yeah, very on the top-down authoritarian, and then ends up transcending the whole left paradigm in a way.
Right. And in Miyazaki's case, because it happens in tandem with him becoming this like head of a company, owner of this studio, I don't think he really has the capacity to articulate where he's at now.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of lost sight of that through line.
Yeah.
But if you look at his work, there's
the themes are there.
The themes have been there. Yeah. The themes have always, and like Mononoke is what we always point to.
Yeah.
Because that's where it's the most evident. But then if you look at the Nausicaa manga compared to the film, it's literally him like shedding this whole messianic narrative. He starts it around, I think, a little bit before he is writing the movie. It's like as a break after Laputa, I want to say. But he starts it around 88, 89, I want to say. But he doesn't finish it until 94, like 2 years after the fall of Yugoslavia, which is like for him the last hope of like world communism or whatever, the last vestiges of the, you know,
hard quotes on that.
Hard quotes
on communism, man.
Hard quotes.
Yeah.
But for him at the time, still being a Marxist.
Who are we talking about again?
Miyazaki. Okay. Miyazaki. That to him was like the last hope.
Not that all Marxists would subscribe to the notion that.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm always gonna put the footnotes on it.
The Wikipedia footnotes.
I'm always gonna have to do that.
Yeah, please do, because I won't do it.
But yeah, I didn't even finish. Not that all Marxists would subscribe to the idea that Yugoslavia was an example of communism or a communist effort.
Yes, right. Yeah. But after that happens, he like returns to the manga with kind of fresh eyes, and that's when he first really zeroes in on this like obviously the movie has the ecological aspects of it, but this is where he really zeroes in on like ecological collapse and man-made ecological collapse, to the point of like the concept of Ragnarok that Bookchin talks about in Ecology of Freedom. And he really zones in on that to the point where like Nausicaa, who still is this like monarch figure, but like a benevolent monarch, she leans into straight up eco-fascist.
Yeah.
And is like,
people say the term people use is benevolent dictator.
Yeah.
That's the term.
Right. But she it's to the point where she's straight up like, look, man, we made this shit and I don't know if we deserve to make it out of it. So
Nausicaa? This character Nausicaa?
Yeah. And it's like, look, man, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And if we all die, we all die. But I hope we don't. but like it's really just kind of accepting the fate we've created for ourselves. And
there's an Ursula Le Guin connection to Miyazaki at this point in the timeline. I think it's
this at this point he has probably asked her if they can adapt Earthsea. Yeah.
But she initially said no. But they had probably been reading her works.
Yeah.
By this point.
Yeah.
Still trying to find that bookchin, that direct social ecology connection with Miyazaki.
Well, in
terms of like him, that being an explicit point of reference.
Yeah. Well, the closest I've seen to that is just like a Japanese ethnobotanist named Sasuke Nakao, I believe his name. Yeah. And I can't find anything that he's written.
Yeah. That's what was
that what was connections?
That was what was featured in that documentary on Princess Mononoke, or no, this is something separate?
I've just found his name tangentially in a few sources. I read this book, Miyazaki World, that mentions him by Susan Napier. But
he was reading though anthropological texts and texts around ecology. Yeah. So it's more likely than not he had, ran into bookchin at least the surface level.
Must have come across it in some way.
Side note, is that Mononoke documentary available somewhere, or is it like it's just on like VHS or whatever, like the long form version?
There's a VHS version and there's a DVD version, and
Gotcha.
The DVD version is way too expensive if you're trying to buy it right now.
Yeah.
But
it's not like streaming anymore.
Well, it's online. It's on. I sent y'all. There's a really, really low res one, maybe on Daily Motion.
Okay.
With subtitles, but the high res one, there's no subtitles. It's in Japanese. So that's when I was sending you those high res clips, and I was translating some of it for you.
Yeah.
Those are both, I think, on Daily Motion.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to give, I guess, everything because I'm writing a thing about this, but like, but basically Miyazaki has a very clear political trajectory that is like really, and like he doesn't quite get all of it, but he has this like foundation and a framework that so clearly parallels somebody who is like way less accessible than he is as an artist.
But then he's also breaking with so many shallow tropes and traditions from a narrative standpoint. I remember he was critiquing The Dark Crystal in an interview and I love The Dark Crystal, but he was putting up some amazing critiques of like how it plays into the good versus evil, and he's like, my films aren't, real life doesn't work that way.
Not at all.
You have all these different people from all these different places who think that they're doing the right thing most of the time. Most of the time they think that they're doing the right thing. And that leads to more complex social dynamics as it relates to like storytelling, or it should relate to storytelling in that way. And that's a part of why Princess Mononoke is my favorite film of all time, and it's such a special film to me because it is a social ecology story where there isn't any good and bad. I mean, you can interpret it that in your own way based upon whatever values you hold, but the picture you're seeing is of all these different forces with their own motives and motivations that seem rational and right and just. And then there's Mother Nature. And Mother Nature is going to do what it's going to do, and the humans have to figure their shit out.
It's and it's so interesting. It's so deep to where like he raises questions where I'm like, he must have read this, and it's like books that came out way later than the movie did. But like, there's a moment in Mononoke where Lady Eboshi is she's like firebombing the mountains where all the apes are. And she says this line, which is like, I literally just started reading Dawn of Everything, and there was this bar about how basically the way they justified taking land from indigenous people was they didn't they essentially were like, if you're not working this land, then you have no claim to it. But the ways that they were working the land was just imperceptible to Europeans. They thought of it as like large scale farming and shit like that, where they're like they're managing the land, but they're not like
simply living off of it's not enough.
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
to industrialize it.
Exactly.
Agribusiness.
And there's this line in Mononoke where I gotta paraphrase, but like she's firebombing these mountains and are just like, once these are clear of all these animals, then damn, I can't even remember now I feel like Ashton right now, but like but like it's more or less like, once we clear the land of all these stupid animals, then it'll be,
we can get to our agri-crop jug.
Yeah, more or less. And it was just like, so
the crop business.
Yeah, and that line stood out to me. So,
but it was iron, you know, like their whole shit is like, you know, this is our livelihood is in manufacturing this thing, and this is what's going to keep us going, and so we need to
and then there's also the element where they're sort of at odds with the emperor too. So you see, like, even if you can view Lady Eboshi as like evil, you can still see her being that from the position of like, we're kind of oppressed in our own way. We're fending off the emperor's forces from this like fortified
it goes so hard.
I
gotta rewatch it.